This guy is definitely a genius. He made a speedboat all by himself. Let's learn how to make a speedboat. To save money, he picked up some used parts from the junkyard, a pump jet and a propeller. First he needs to modify the pump jet, shorten the outer shell a bit, so that it fits the length of the speedboat's hull. Next drill 4 small holes at the bottom of the shell. Then he can install a wire mesh. It prevents debris from entering the pump jet. He needs to create grooves on the propeller shaft. Next he installs it onto the pump jet. Using a hammer he taps the bearing into place. Then he installs the sealing cap, and installs the propeller. Tighten the screws with a wrench. After assembling the pump jet, apply sealing glue. This ensures the power won't leak. Next comes the hull construction. He uses plywood to make the mold. Cut the plywood down the middle. Then he folds it up, using waterproof glue to connect the middle. To prevent the mold from deforming, he installs some frames at the bottom. Once the hull structure is done, he can remove these auxiliary supports, and it becomes a normal hull structure. Before pouring the mold he needs to smooth the inside of the mold. Then he paints a layer of red paint on the inside of the mold. Next he can apply fiberglass. Coat the fiberglass with epoxy resin. The fiberglass needs several layers of thickness to meet the standards. Then install some plastic supports inside the hull. Again use glue to secure them. Once the glue dries he can remove the outer plywood mold. The plywood used is very thin. It's easy to remove. The main reason is that he applied a mold release agent. Next weld a steel frame. Install the frame onto the wooden board. Then install it in the middle of the hull. Again use fiberglass to secure it. Let it merge with the hull. Cut an installation hole at the back of the hull. Then install the pump jet. Use fiberglass to fill the gaps. Install a bearing seat on the propeller shaft. Then install a pulley on the bearing seat. Next he connects these two sections together. This is an aerator used for aquaculture. He plans to use it for the engine. Before installation he needs to modify an interface. Drill 4 mounting holes on the disc. The interface needs to have a carburetor installed. Modify the disc so it fits better. The other end of the aerator needs to connect to the intake pipe. Cut the intake pipe interface. Modify it into a separate interface. Weld a curved pipe on top. Now the aerator can be installed. Install a shaft sleeve on the aerator. Then install the pulley. The engine also has a pulley on the bottom. Install a tensioner in the middle. Now the engine can drive the supercharger. Since it's directly driven by the engine, its response speed is faster than a turbocharger. The only downside is it consumes power. Weld a support at the bottom of the engine. Hoist the engine into position. Here the belt needs to be installed first. Then tighten the belt. Now he can weld the base screws in place. To improve aesthetics, he also paints the engine. This is a 4-cylinder engine. It's most likely from a scrapped car. Next he installs the base frame. Install the engine belt. Use a wrench to tighten it as long as it can rotate it's good. Then install the starter motor. Below is an exhaust pipe. Directly install the pulley on the flywheel. There's a curved pipe on the intake pipe. Its job is to adjust the air pump to the side, so it can connect to the engine. The design is very clever. Next install the spark plug cap. The black device is a distributor cap. The exhaust pipe uses a motorcycle muffler. Fix it with springs. Install a waste gas pipe connecting to the exhaust pipe. Install an oil filter. After installation the engine will start perfectly. The engine uses a water cooling system. Later a pump and water pipe will replace the water cooling cycle. He sprays a layer of deep blue paint on the bottom of the boat. This color is beautiful. Next he welds some supports on the boat. Weld the steering wheel onto the frame. Then install the steering cable to the pump jet's tail. The hull shape is made from plywood. He also uses fiberglass here. The boat has a sunshade on top. The design is very stylish and he smooths the fiberglass sheet. Then he can start painting. The painting is quite complicated. First a primer layer. Then he sprays the blue paint. This color matches the bottom of the boat. He connects the steering cable to the steering mechanism. Now steering can be controlled. Next the engine installation. Hoist the engine onto the base. Before securing it install the belts. 3 belts with very high strength. Then secure the engine screws. He chooses a bicycle brake system for the throttle cable. Install one part of the cable to the carburetor. Then install the carburetor's air filter. The start switch is also a cheap machine switch. The design is very frugal. No need for a start key. The engine needs a starter battery. There's no fixed mount designed here. Connect the water intake pipe to the engine. Then connect the pump water pipe. Next connect the water pipe to the pump jet. Now using the pump jet's pressure water cooling can be achieved. Water goes in, water goes out. He still needs to install a water outlet pipe. Where do you think the water outlet pipe should go? To make the boat look nice, he installs a tail wing at the back. Next install the throttle control cable to the steering wheel. He found a plastic seat outside and installed it on the driver's seat. Not sure if the seat is comfortable enough. Soon the speedboat is finished. The engine runs very smoothly. The throttle sound is incredible. Of course the water test is also essential. This speed is just like flying an airplane. It's hard to believe this power comes from a 4-cylinder gasoline engine. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this speedboat?